I want to run a quick simulation with you.
Okay, let's do it.
It's, let's say, a Tuesday morning.
Hmm.
You're standing in line, waiting for a coffee, nothing fancy, just a little pick-me-up to start the day.
Hmm.
You pull out your phone to pay, and you open your banking app, and then you do that thing. The physical tick that we all think is just us, but it turns out it's like a universal human experience.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. You mean the squint.
The squint, yes. You literally close one eye, you kind of scrunch up your face, and you peek at the screen with the other.
Yeah.
Because on some deep, visceral level, you are terrified of the number that is about to pop up on that screen.
It's a genuine defense mechanism. It's your body, physically trying to protect your brain from a threat.
A threat.
Yeah, but the threat isn't a lion or a bear anymore. The threat is a digit. It's a number on a screen.
And it triggers that immediate, awful mental calculus of, okay, if I buy this $5 coffee, what does that actually mean? Does that mean I'm eating ramen until Friday?
Exactly. Or worse, will this $5 somehow trigger a $25 overdraft fee?
Yes, a fee that costs 7 times more than the actual coffee. It's that. It's this low-level hum of anxiety that's just always there.
It's like background radiation. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
You can function, you can go to work, you can smile at people.
You can seem totally fine.
Totally fine. But underneath it all, there's this hum that just says, I am one flat tire away from a complete and total disaster.
That is the exact feeling we want to target today. But here's the thing that gets me, the thing that's so frustrating when you look for solutions to that anxiety. If I go online, if I look on TikTok or, so-called financial Twitter, the advice is, well, it's just demoralizing.
It's often completely detached from the reality of most people's lives.
It's always, here's how you make your first million. Or, if you aren't making 6 figures by the time you're 25, you are fundamentally failing at life.
Right.
And I'm sitting there looking at a bank balance of like $300 thinking $1 million. I'm just trying to get to Friday.
And that's what some behavioral economists call the gap of despair.
The gap of despair, that sounds painfully accurate.
It really is. Because when the goalpost is set at $1 million and you're standing at 0 or close to it, the brain just checks out. It can't process that.
It's too far. It's like telling someone who's never even jogged around the block that they need to run an ultramarathon tomorrow morning.
Exactly. They're not going to try to run. They're just going to go back to the couch. It feels impossible.
Because it is. It feels like a total fantasy. And the result of that, I think, is that people just give up. They think, well, I'm never going to be a millionaire, so I might as well get the latte. I might as well buy the boots.
It becomes a kind of nihilistic spending.
Yeah.
You're giving up before you even start because the game just feels rigged against you.
Yeah.
But the research we looked at for this deep dive, it uncovered something completely different.
Okay.
We dug through all of it. The behavioral finance data, the actual math of compounding, the psychology of scarcity, and we found a number.
And I'm guessing it is not $1 million.
It is not even close to $1 million. There is a very specific, and I think achievable milestone that acts as the best way I can describe it is a physics engine change for your entire life.
A physics engine change. I love that. Like in a video game where suddenly the rules of gravity just shift.
That's exactly it. It's this turning point where the math completely flips, your psychology gets rewired, and the amount of professional leverage you have just skyrockets. And that number is $20,000.
$20,000. Okay, let's pause right there. Because I know for some people listening, that might still sound like a huge amount of money.
It can, for sure.
And for others, it might sound kind of small. But you're saying this is the specific threshold. This is where the universe, financially speaking, actually changes.
This is the escape velocity point.
Yes.
Sounds so specific, doesn't it? But when you really drill down into the mechanics of building wealth, $20,000 is this kind of magic threshold. It's the line in the sand.
So that's our mission today. We're going to unpack exactly why this specific amount of money is the difference between constantly struggling and actually building something.
Right. We go look at the math.
Why that first 20K is such a nightmare to save, but the second 20K is, surprisingly, so much easier.
And we'll talk about why hitting this number is the thing that finally stops you from worrying about the price of a latte. Which, I mean, honestly, that feeling alone is worth the price of admission.
Absolutely. So let's start with the physics of this. You use this analogy, the boulder and the hill. And looking at the notes, it sounds, frankly, miserable.
It is miserable. And we have to be honest about that part. I want you to really visualize this. Picture a massive, jagged granite boulder. It weighs a ton.
Okay.
And you are at the bottom, of a really steep, muddy hill. Your job is to push this thing to the top.
This is the Sisyphus nightmare scenario.
It is. This is the $0 to $20,000 phase. You're behind the boulder, your shoulders pressed against the rock, your feet are slipping in the mud. You push with every single thing you have.
You're straining.
You're sweating, your muscles are screaming. You push for a whole month, and the boulder moves, maybe 3 inches.
And this is what I think people don't fully get about living paycheck to paycheck. It's not just that you're not moving forward. It feels like there are active forces pushing you backward.
That's the gravity. And in financial terms, gravity is very specific. Gravity is the overdraft fee.
Right.
Gravity is the 24% interest on your credit card balance. Gravity is the fact that because you can't afford the $100 dental cleaning, you end up needing the $2,000 root canal 3 years later.
That's the old Vimes Boots theory of socioeconomic unfairness, right? That it's just more expensive to be poor.
100%. If you buy the cheap $20 work boots, they fall apart in 3 months. If you can afford the $100 ones, they'll last you 5 years.
But you need the $100 up front.
And if you don't have it, you're just trapped in this cycle of buying the cheap boots over and over again. That's the gravity. That's the force pushing the boulder right back down on top of you.
I really, really relate to that uphill push feeling. I remember in my early 20s, it felt like the entire financial system was actively hunting me. I'd save, $500, feel great about it, and then my car's transmission would just explode. And the repair wasn't $500, of course. It was $1,200.
Of course.
So now I'm back to zero, and I'm also in debt.
That is the single most terrifying part of that uphill phase. If you stop pushing for even 1 second, let's say you get the flu and you miss a week of work, or your car breaks down, the boulder doesn't just stop.
No, it rolls back.
It rolls back and it crushes you. You could lose 6 months of painful progress in one really bad weekend.
God, that's bleak. But it feels so true. That's the anxiety from the coffee shop.
And this is the secret that all the millionaire mindset gurus just completely ignore. The hill has a crest. This uphill struggle is not infinite.
And you're saying the crest of that hill is $20,000.
That is the peak. The moment you get that boulder to the $20,000 mark, you give it one last nudge and it goes over the edge. And in that instant, the physics flip.
Gravity suddenly becomes your friend.
Momentum takes over. The boulder starts rolling down the other side of the hill. Now, you still have to guide it. You can't just walk away and forget about it. But you are not breaking your back just to move it an inch. It starts to move itself.
So $20,000 is that invisible barrier. It separates two totally different modes of existence.
Precisely. You get 2 modes of living. Mode 1, pushing against gravity. That's where, frankly, the majority of people live their entire lives.
And mode 2?
Mode 2 is where momentum takes over. That is where wealth builders live. And the real tragedy is that so many people give up during that pushing phase because they don't realize how close they are to the crest.
They just assume the whole journey is going to be that hard.
Exactly. They think, well, if it took me 2 years of grinding to save $5,000, it's going to take me 40 years to save $100,000.
Right. They do the simple math.
They do linear thinking in what is an exponential world. They don't account for the crest of the hill. They don't account for the fact that the entire physics of the situation is about to change in their favor.
You mentioned physics, but there's a biological piece to this too, isn't there? A brain component.
Oh, absolutely.
And that brings us to the second big pillar of our deep dive today, this huge psychological shift. Because something really profound happens inside your brain when you cross that $20,000 line.
This is the part that fascinates me the most. We're not just talking about digits in a bank account. We're talking about how your neurons actually fire differently.
So paint that picture for me. What is happening in our brains when we're in that pushing the boulder phase?
Okay, so when you have 0 savings or very little, your brain is forced to operate in what psychologists call survival mode.
Which just sounds exhausting.
It's incredibly efficiently exhausting because in survival mode, your brain filters every single decision you make through this lens of fear and immediate necessity. It's a bandwidth issue.
It's like when your computer has way too many tabs open and the fan starts whirring like crazy and everything just slows down to a crawl.
That's a perfect analogy.
You try to open a simple spreadsheet and the whole machine just freezes up.
Yes. Or imagine your house is literally on fire. The curtains are burning, smoke is filling the room, and in that moment, someone walks up to you and calmly asks, "Hey, just thinking ahead, where do you want to go on vacation next summer? Should we do Italy or Japan?"
I am not thinking about vacation. I'm thinking about the fire. I'm thinking about how to get out the window.
Exactly. You cannot plan 10 years down the road when you are terrified about paying rent this month. Your mental bandwidth is 100% consumed by the immediate threat. You can't even see opportunities because your brain is too busy scanning for danger.
And that has to lead to bad decision making, doesn't it? I feel like it explains why people make choices that, from the outside, might look stupid.
It leads to short-term decision-making. That's the key. You take the payday loan with the insane predatory interest rate because you need cash now.
You don't have the luxury of sitting down to calculate the APR.
You don't.
Yeah.
You buy the cheap processed food because it's calorie-dense and you're exhausted, instead of buying fresh ingredients to cook a healthy meal, which might save you money in the long term, but requires energy and time that you just don't have today.
So let's bring in the data on this. We found some research that actually puts hard numbers on this feeling of relief.
Yeah, this was really eye-opening. There was a comprehensive study that looked at financial well-being scores. And they found that having just the first $2,000 in emergency savings, just $2,000,
Right.
that boosted a person's financial well-being score by 21%.
Wow, that is a massive jump for what is a relatively small amount of money. I mean, $2,000 isn't a fortune.
It's not a fortune, but it's a firewall. That's the difference. $2,000 takes the immediate edge off. It means a flat tire is not a bankruptcy event.
Right.
It means a broken tooth doesn't automatically spiral into high-interest debt. But here's where it gets really interesting. It gets to our magic number. When you push that savings buffer up to cover 3 to 6 months of living expenses, which for the average person lands right around that $20,000 mark, you get another 13% boost in your well-being.
So you are literally, neurologically, reclaiming your brain.
You are reclaiming your processing power. As soon as that buffer exists, you shift from being reactive to being proactive. You stop asking, how do I survive this week? And you start asking, how do I grow next year?
I love that distinction you made between a disaster and an inconvenience. I remember when my laptop died back when I was totally broke. It was a tragedy. It was a full-blown crisis. I couldn't work. I couldn't do my freelance stuff. It was a spiral. I actually remember crying in the Apple store.
And if that same thing happened today?
Today, it would be really annoying. I'd have to go to the store, restore from a backup. It's a hassle, but my heart rate doesn't spike. I don't lose any sleep over it. And I definitely don't cry in the middle of a mall.
That is the shift. The external event is identical, a broken laptop. But your internal reaction is completely different, all because of that $20,000 buffer. And because you're not panicking, you can make a smart decision.
Right, you can think clearly.
You can wait for a sale maybe, or buy a model that's actually better for your work in the long term. You have the incredible luxury of strategy.
And that strategy is what allows the math to finally start working for you. Which brings us to our third section, and this is where, honestly, the numbers start to get really fun.
The math is actually shocking,
Yeah.
and I don't use that word lightly.
So I want to pause here and really look at the math, because momentum sounds nice, it's a good metaphor, but this is a deep dive. Does the math actually back up this idea that the second 20,000 is easier than the first?
It backs it up in a way that is just staggering when you see it laid out. We modeled this using very standard conservative market returns.
Okay, set the scene for us. Let's build a simulator. What are the variables?
All right, let's take a hypothetical saver. We'll call him Alex. Alex is really disciplined. He manages to squeeze out $1,000 a month to invest.
Okay, and let's just be clear. That is a heavy, heavy lift for most people. That's a side hustle, or living with 3 roommates, or driving a 15-year-old car. That represents a huge sacrifice.
A massive sacrifice. So Alex starts at zero. He puts in his $1,000 a month. Every month, he invests it in a standard, boring S&P 500 index fund.
Yeah.
And we're assuming a pretty average 8% return compounded annually.
Standard stuff. So how long does it take Alex to finally pop the champagne on his first $20,000?
It takes him about 19 months.
19 months, that is a long time. That is a year and a half of consistently saying no. No to the weekend trip, no to the new phone, no to grabbing lunch with coworkers.
It's a total grind. And here's the kicker. For most of those 19 months, almost all the money in that account is money that Alex physically put there himself.
From his own sweat.
Exactly. The investment returns are negligible. He's made maybe a few $100 in interest. It really feels like he is doing all of the heavy lifting. He's pushing the boulder.
Okay, so he finally hits 20,000. He's at the crest. He keeps going, doesn't change a single thing. Still saving that same 1,000 a month. Still getting 8%. How long to get the second 20,000? To go from 20K to 40K?
This is where the timeline just cracks wide open. It takes him roughly 17 months.
So he shaved off 2 full months.
2 months of his life he just bought back.
Yeah.
And why? Because while he was busy saving his next $1,000, his initial $20,000 was working in the background for him. It was generating its own investment returns that got added to the pile.
So you do the exact same amount of work, but you get a faster result.
Exactly. But, 17 months is still a long time. Yeah. Let's fast forward. Let's say Alex is a machine. He stays the course, he keeps at it, and now his portfolio is at $400,000. The goal is still the same. Generate another $20,000 block of wealth. How long do you think it takes him to go from $400,000 to $420,000?
I'm almost scared to guess. Maybe a year?
5 months.
Whoa, wait, stop. Did you say 5 months?
5 months. And remember, he is saving the exact same amount from his paycheck, that $1,000. But his portfolio, his capital, is now generating $3,000 or $4,000 a month in growth, on average, all by itself.
That's actually hard for me to wrap my head around. The personal effort is identical, but the result is almost 4 times faster.
That is the literal definition of financial leverage. In the beginning, 99% of the growth comes from your sweat.
Right.
Later on, 80% of the growth comes from your capital. That is why the rich get richer. It isn't some grand conspiracy, it's just math.
That is the gravity working for you, part of the Boulder analogy made real.
It is. It's what Einstein supposedly called the eighth wonder of the world, compound interest. But we usually talk about it in these abstract 30-year terms. When you see the timeline to your goal shrink from 19 months down to 5, it becomes visceral. You can feel it.
It also completely demystifies what wealthy people are doing. I think a lot of us have this quiet conspiracy theory that once you get enough money, you get invited to a secret club.
The Illuminati Investment Club.
Exactly, where they hand you a list of stocks that are guaranteed to go up 50%. But that's not what's happening.
No, it's just the rule of scale. They're often investing in the exact same boring index funds we are. They're getting the same 8 or 10% returns.
Yeah.
But the scale changes everything.
Okay, break that down.
So if you have $2,000 invested and the market has a great year, it's up 10%, you made $200.
Which is nice. It's a nice dinner out. But it's not changing my life. It's not going to pay my rent.
Right. But if you have $20,000 invested and you get that exact same 10% return, you made $2,000.
Now we're talking.
$2,000 is a mortgage payment. It's a flight for vacation. And at $20,000 invested, assuming that 8% return, you're looking at about $1,600 a year in passive income.
That's money that just appears in your account without you lifting a finger.
That is the first real taste of your money working for you. And that psychological win, actually seeing your money make more money, that's usually the fuel people need to keep going.
Yeah.
That's the moment you realize, oh, my money has a job.
Yeah.
And it is working for me while I sleep.
So we've got the physics, the psychology, and the math. But there's another piece to this puzzle, and honestly, I think this might be the hardest hurdle for people to clear. It's the identity shift.
The identity rewire, yes.
Because to get to that first 20K, you have to literally become a different person.
You really, really do. We kind of glossed over it earlier, saying 19 months of saving, but living through those 19 months is incredibly difficult.
It's a test.
It is. It requires saying no consistently, hundreds and hundreds of times for over a year and a half.
The discipline test.
That's what it is. You have to track every single dollar. You have to resist what they call shiny object syndrome. The new iPhone comes out, or all your friends are planning a trip to Tulum for someone's birthday.
And you have to be the person who says, I can't do that right now.
And that's not fun. It can be really socially isolating. Nobody writes epic songs about the person who stayed home on a Friday night to meal prep and save an extra $200.
No, they do not.
But the internal change that happens is profound. It's not just about the numbers in your bank account. It's about proving to yourself, maybe for the first time, that you are in control.
You're in the driver's seat.
You are. You are transitioning from being an impulsive spender to being a strategic saver. That is a fundamental rewiring of your neural pathways.
It's the muscle of delayed gratification.
Which study after study shows is the single biggest predictor of success in all areas of life, not just in finance. Once you prove to yourself, I can save $20,000, you unlock this deep level of confidence. You know you can handle bigger challenges. You know you have agency over your own life.
I really like that idea that the money is just the result, but the habit you form is the real asset.
Exactly.
Because even if the market crashes tomorrow or you have an emergency and have to spend it, you still have the skill set. You are now a person who knows how to build wealth from scratch.
Exactly. They can take the money from the bank account, but they can't take the discipline once it's been forged in that fire. You can't unlearn how to be prudent and strategic.
Now, let's talk about how this spills over into your career, because we mentioned career leverage at the top of the show. How does having 20K in the bank actually change your 9 to 5?
This is one of the most powerful and underrated benefits of hitting this number. We call it walking away money.
Walking away money. I like the sound of that. Sounds a little dangerous.
It's powerful. Let's analyze the power dynamic at work when you have zero savings. You're trapped. If your boss is toxic, if they're abusive, if they're demanding you work weekends without pay, what can you really do about it?
You have to take it. You have to suck it up because you need that paycheck on Friday to pay your rent on Monday. You have zero leverage, absolutely none.
You are operating from a position of pure weakness and desperation. And employers, whether it's conscious or unconscious, can smell that desperation a mile away. You can't negotiate effectively. You can't risk being fired. You are, for all intents and purposes, a captive audience.
But then you get that 6-month runway, you have that $20,000 sitting there quietly in an account.
The entire dynamic flips on its head. You suddenly have the ability to say no. If your boss makes an unreasonable demand, you can actually push back. You can say, I can't do that. Or if that's the new expectation, we need to discuss a change in compensation.
Because the worst case scenario, getting fired, is now survivable.
It's an inconvenience. It's no longer a death sentence. You have 6 months to find a new and probably better job. And here is the beautiful irony of it all.
What's that?
When you are willing to walk away, you instantly become a more attractive employee.
That's the confidence loop you were talking about.
It is. You walk differently. You speak up with your ideas in meetings. You take smart risks. You suggest bold new projects because you're not terrified of failure anymore. And that behavior is what leads to better assignments, more respect from leadership, and yes, raises and promotions.
So having the money makes it easier to make more money.
Always. Money goes to money. Not because of some secret magic, but because money gives you the option to participate in opportunities that are invisible to you when you're broke.
Can you give me a concrete example of that, the whole participating in opportunity thing?
Sure. Think about the mental shift from envy to evaluation. When you're broke and you see a friend starting a new business, or you see a for sale sign on a small rental property, what's your first thought?
Your first thought is, oh, it must be nice for them, or I wish I could do something like that. You're a spectator. You're just watching the game from the cheap seats.
You're a spectator. But when you have 20K in the bank,
Yeah.
you become a potential participant. You can actually run the numbers. You might say to your friend, hey, I believe in this. I can invest $5,000 in your seed round.
Okay, I see.
Or let's take another example. Let's say there's a huge conference that's vital for your industry, but your cheap boss won't pay for you to go.
If you're broke, you just don't go. You stay home. You miss out on all that networking and knowledge.
Right. But if you have that buffer, you can make a strategic decision. You can pay for it yourself. You can invest in your own career. And maybe at that conference, you meet your next boss. You get a job offer with a $20,000 raise. The ROI on that trip is infinite. But you couldn't have even accessed that opportunity without the initial seed capital.
That is really powerful. It's the difference between being a passenger in your own life and actually being the driver.
Exactly. You stop waiting for other people to give you permission.
Okay, we are moving into the final stretch here, and we have to talk about spending. Because once you hit this milestone, the way you look at spending should change completely. We're calling this the spending paradigm shift.
This is all about the difference between sweating the small stuff and focusing on the big stuff.
We've all done this. You're standing in the grocery aisle, agonizing over the name brand cereal versus the generic one to save 40 cents.
When you're broke, you have to obsess over those microtransactions. The $3 coffee versus making it at home, the generic cereal. And look, those things can add up, sure, but they consume a massive amount of mental energy for a relatively small financial return.
Cutting out coffee might save you, what, $1,000 a year?
Exactly, which helps, but it's not going to make you wealthy.
Right.
But when you have that financial foundation, you can stop worrying so much about the coffee. You can free up that mental bandwidth to start optimizing the big three: housing, transportation, and investing.
These are the giant levers that actually move the needle on your net worth.
These are the decisions that can swing your financial future by tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. You stop agonizing over a $5 purchase and you start thinking about negotiating your rent down or refinancing your mortgage or rebalancing your asset allocation.
Speaking of the big three, we have to talk about the great car trap. because this is a specific flashing red light warning we found in the research. This is the danger zone for people who finally hit that $20,000 milestone.
This is the tragedy. I see it happen all the time. Someone works incredibly hard for 2 years. They sacrifice everything. They finally hit $20,000. They feel rich for the first time in their life. And what is that first impulse?
I deserve a reward. I've been driving this piece of junk for 5 years. The AC is broken. The window is literally taped up. It is time for a new car.
And boom, they go out and they finance a $30,000 car. They take a big chunk of their hard-earned savings as a down payment, and they sign up for a $600 monthly payment for the next 5 years.
Why is this such a complete disaster? I mean, having reliable transportation is important, isn't it?
It is, but new cars are wealth destroyers.
Yeah.
That is just the cold, hard math. A brand new car loses about 20% of its value the second you drive it off the lot. It is instant, massive depreciation.
So you are taking an asset that grows your invested cash, and you are swapping it for a liability that shrinks in value every single day.
Precisely. And the opportunity cost. That's the part that is truly staggering. This is what nobody calculates when they're sitting in the dealership.
Yeah.
If you take $30,000 and you put it into a car, that money is basically gone. But if you had left that same $30,000 in the market over 20 years at standard returns, do you have any idea what that money becomes?
I'm guessing it doubles, maybe $60,000.
Try $200,000.
Excuse me.
With standard boring compounding. That $30,000 grows to roughly $200,000 over 2 decades. So when you sign that piece of paper at the dealership, you're not paying $30,000 for the car, you are paying $200,000.
Ouch. When you frame it that way, that shiny new car just cost me $200,000 of my future. It makes the new leather seats smell a little less sweet.
It really does. It should terrify you. You are literally trading your future freedom for a heated steering wheel today. And this gets to the whole aesthetic of wealth. We have this cultural image of the rich person in the shiny new luxury car. But so often, that person is incredibly stressed.
Right.
They have a massive payment hanging over their head. They are asset poor, but lifestyle rich.
Whereas the person in the 10-year-old Honda,
The person in the older Honda with the dented bumper might have $500,000 in their brokerage account. They are quietly building real wealth.
Yeah.
They are sleeping well at night because they don't have an $800 car note haunting them every month.
That's a great analogy you had. Driving a luxury car with no savings is like paying for a fancy gym membership you never use while complaining that you can't afford to buy healthy food.
It's purely performative wealth.
Yeah.
It's the difference between looking rich and being rich.
So the rule of thumb here is, don't slaughter the golden goose just to buy yourself a slightly more comfortable gilded cage.
I might have to steal that one. Yes. Do not kill the incredible momentum you just spent 19 agonizing months to build.
So as we wrap this all up, let's bring it home. We have covered a ton of ground today.
We have. We started with that image of the boulder. The realization that $20,000 is the crest of the hill. The moment you get there, the physics of wealth flip from resistance to momentum.
Then we talked about that huge psychological shift, moving out of survival mode, where your house is always on fire and you can't see past next week, and into strategy mode, where you can actually breathe and plan for the future.
We looked at the cold, hard math. The undeniable fact that the second $20,000 takes significantly less time and effort than the first, and how that acceleration just keeps compounding on itself.
And we talked about the danger of blowing it all on a depreciating asset.
Please, for the love of all that is holy, do not blow it on the car. Keep driving the Honda.
The ultimate goal here, the whole point of this deep dive, is to move from a life of reacting to a life you can actually design.
That's the phrase, designing your life. When you have that $20,000 core, you finally have the raw materials to start building the structure you actually want to live in, not just the one you're forced into.
I love that. So here's our final thought for you, the listener. We want to leave you with one last question to really chew on.
We talked about the opportunity cost of the car, but I want you to look even closer at your life right now. If you just stopped worrying about the $3 purchases for a moment, the coffees, the avocados, all that noise, and you focused with laser precision on getting to that $20,000 threshold, what opportunity cost decisions are you making right now that you don't even realize?
Give us one last example to close on.
Is that extra bedroom in your apartment, the one you use for storage, or as a guest room for people who visit once a year, is that extra $500 a month in rent worth delaying your financial freedom by 5 years? Is living in the trendy neighborhood with the expensive restaurants worth staying in that uphill push phase for an entire extra decade?
That is a heavy question. Are you trading your future freedom for a little extra square footage today?
Exactly. It's worth thinking about.
Indeed it is. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Always a pleasure.
We'll see you on the next one. Keep pushing that boulder.
It gets easier, I promise.